Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. No, I'm just kidding. But doesn't this seem, picture-wise, audio-wise, like this could be, like, hey everyone, make sure to smash that like and subscribe button, blight out. Anyway, so, it's snowing and cold, and I hope you're warm when you're watching this sometime Monday, hopefully. I'm going to put out a separate quick hit video about the content quiz. So you're going to get one video about content that we would have covered today, and a second video about information related to the content quiz that's coming up at the end of the week. So for the time being, and welcome to my home office, for the time being, let us switch up right here. Okie dokie. Whoa. Snowmageddon 2019 version. So, the things that I want to talk about today, major talking points. Number one, Julie asked a question about situation analysis, so I'll go over that very quickly. Talk a little bit about the major media groups that are referenced in Chapter 7, which you'll hear me sort of critique them a little bit. I want to talk about use and gratifications theory, because this is a theory that I've worked with in a lot of my research, and it has a number of useful tools with it, but also has some weaknesses. And then the adoption model, which I think is probably the most impactful for what we're doing with our client. So, Julia asks, in class, can you help describe the situation analysis for the project? No. Moving on. No, so the situation analysis functionally is trying to provide the reader, right? Because, well, let me take a step back. When you think about the group project, we have a bunch of different audiences, or a bunch of different publics that are going to read it. I'm going to read it, the professor. Brittany's going to read it, the actual client. You are going to read it, the writer and co-producer of this thing. But imagine it being comparable to, let's say, a case study paper. You'd want to give enough background information, enough information about the quote-unquote situation that we're faced with, so that somebody can get up to date. So details about the contamination rate, why this project was even taken on in the first place, what the ultimate hopes and goals and dreams are of the current situation that we're in, right? Imagine any media portrayal or any movie, the main character detective gets on the scene, they pull the tape over their head, and they get a quick briefing as to what they're about to walk into. This, in a less dramatic, exotic kind of way, is what we're going for. We want to be able to introduce the situation, tell people what it is that they're looking at, and why they're looking at it, and why we got involved in the first place. So, a quick little snippet. For now, when we turn in the final project, it'll be more robust, more thorough. But for the time being, we just need a quick little burst of content, just so that we make sure that we are properly framing the actual situation analysis. Hope that answers that question. Okay, so the textbook talks about major media groups, and it creates this big continuum with mass media on one side and then personalized communication on the other. And before I go any further, I do want to note that using a continuum in any way, shape, or form sort of isolates how there might be personalized communication that exists within mass media, and there might be mass media that exists within personalized communication. And I'll illustrate that a little bit as we move forward. But on the furthest end of the continuum, on the mass media end of the continuum, and look at these two little boxes, we see that there are things like, there are things like the public media. So before we talked about paid media, well, oftentimes paid media is media that we send out to a large group of people. And in this case, we refer to it as public media, paying for things like newspapers, newspaper space, advertising time, radio spots, TV spots, and all of that is this big, large mass media message that is sent out to different groups of people to hopefully garner enough knowledge, insight, or information. Now, one of the problems with, let's say, mass media at that end of the continuum is what? Is what I would typically ask if we were in class, and then someone would raise their hand and say a comment and be like, that's absolutely right. Moving on. But since I don't have that benefit because we're in an asynchronous environment, like mass media, we think about things like controlled media as well. So when we're thinking about public media, things that are typically paid for, those are messages that we construct, we send out to someone like a newspaper, like an advertising agency, a radio station, TV station, and then they distribute that message. They send it put it out to the public. In the case of controlled media, we're still sending out and constructing a big message and having it delivered, but oftentimes we are the ones who are delivering that message in the form of an annual report or newsletter or direct mail. Oftentimes with controlled media, we have components of earned media. So we are not just saying, okay, let's pick out the 10 most popular radio stations in the area and talk about this initiative that we have as a PR firm. In this case, we're thinking, okay, more strategic, more purposeful. I want to send the newsletter to people who are affected by our thing. So in the case of recycling, if we are doing controlled media, we probably want to do that probably on campus, probably to students, another message for staff, another message for faculty, another message for Chartwell. So we just want to be purposeful as to our controlling component of that. In the middle, similar, emails, blogs, social media, all things that we've talked about. And now we're starting to, again, divvy further away from mass media into personalized communication, things like events, trade shows, things like one-on-one interactions, so on and so forth. What you typically experience here is that all 5 of these little buckets in some way have to intersect and interject with each other. So in the case of public media, in the case of personalized communication, how do we get somebody to go to a trade show or a conference? Well, we probably use more along the lines of mass media, newspapers, advertising. We maybe even use controlled media like creating a newsletter, providing direct mail. We might even promote things on social media, make it a sponsored advertisement to get us to the one-on-one personalized communication. So if I want somebody to come to a conference, who is that person? Why would they want to go there? And how do I reach them? And so oftentimes we look at mass media as a tool to accomplish personalized communication. The question then becomes, can we do the opposite? Can we use personalized communication to influence and ultimately impact mass media? If you're thinking about the quiz, a question might arise as to how does mass media impact personalized communication? And this is the exact time marker that you can reference. Okay. We good? Any questions? Okay. So, user gratification theory. No. Oh, I went backwards. Okay, so I'll put both up here. Traditionally speaking, in the 30s and 40s and 50s with mass media, traditional mass media, begged the question or asked the question, what does the media do to people? Because the overwhelming sentiment is that you watch TV, you listen to the radio, it directly embeds knowledge into your mind, it persuades you, it makes you do a thing. Well, over time, we started to realize that it's not so much that the media, per se, directly influences you, although it could, and sometimes it does, but instead, what is it that people do with the media? And another important question that user gratification theory asks is, how are individuals individually motivated to choose a particular tool to satisfy a need that they have? So the phrasing of the theory, right, uses and gratifications, is arguing that individuals will use a specific tool or technique, a platform like television or radio or a book. They will use a specific tool as a means to gratify a need that they have. And I'll just put it up here. There are a bunch of different gratifications that exist that you have on an everyday basis, right? We can talk about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, talking about self-actualization and basic interpersonal needs. But with user gratification theory, we're basically arguing, okay, if I'm an individual with all these sample gratifications at differing levels, so maybe I needed an escape, so I'll use user gratifications, I'll use a tool, a platform, I'll use something that will enable me to experience escapism. So my day is really tough, my boss is a jerk, my professor is really smelly, I am going to find a tool, oftentimes the best or most accessible tool, to satisfy, to gratify the need of escapism. And so oftentimes individuals will match up, okay, this is a need that I have. What thing allows me to satisfy that to the highest potential? And when we think about it from that perspective, we get to sort of reverse engineer the process. If I want somebody to get a sense of pride that they've been recycling, what vehicle can I choose as a PR practitioner to help guide them that way? Can I theoretically tap into their individual gratifications, their needs and desires, and can I frame an actionable item, a use, that will then encourage them to do it? So if undergraduate students, for instance, really want to, let's say, interact with each other or socialize, as the language reads here, maybe I can tap into that need and desire of people that are living on campus, people living in the dorms, and I could bundle a behavior like recycling as a group, recycling as a student organization, student government association. They have an outing every year. This time it'll be recycling focused. Can I tap into their individual needs and gratifications in a way that benefits my particular service or my particular firm, in this case, recycling and sustainability? What are the gratifications that college-age students at North Central are trying to satisfy? If I can tap into that, I can then figure out, okay, how do I reach them? And I'll go back really quick. How do I reach them? How do I move them from mass media to personalized communication? And how can I get them to go to a conference or to a trade show or to something? Okay, so those are big picture things that I want you to think about with user gratifications. What uses, what needs, what desires do people have? And then how do I help gratify them? What tools do I need to provide? If I want to make a student takeover on our Instagram page, what is it that I need to provide them to entice them to do it, number one, but two, to then encourage them and give them all the tools that they need to then satisfy it. If I want to empower students into feeling that they could really make a difference with recycling, then maybe I can figure out how to strategically plan and coordinate and encourage them to do so. Now, one of the talking points that I'm not going to get to right now, but I'm going to send you this, is the adoption model. But what we're doing right now, and what we could do step by step by step, we're going to be doing it on Wednesday if we have class, probably won't, and we're going to be doing it next week too, is looking at this adoption model and breaking it down piece by piece by piece to decide where are individuals with their degree of knowledge. How do we persuade individuals to do a certain thing? And then once we persuade them, how does their decision-making process work? And can I implement certain stages if individuals adopt our practices or if individuals reject our practices? Those are big picture things that you don't need to think about right now. I'll talk about it more on Wednesday, or the video that I put out probably on Wednesday, because it's going to be freezing. So if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, let me know. Again, hit and smash that like and subscribe button. All right, see ya.